What fan theory do you 100% accept as true? The Empire Strikes Back. Admiral Ozzel is a rebel spy. Everything Ozzel does in his brief bits of screen time is to the detriment of the Empire. When the probe droid finds the rebel shield generator, Ozzel tries to dismiss it as smugglers before Pete speaks out of turn and gets Vader involved. Later, Ozzel orders the fleet out of hyperspace too quickly, giving the rebels plenty of time to activate the aforementioned shield generator that Ozzel knew about. Clumsy as he is, stupid or rebel sympathizer who gave his life to give the Alliance as much time to evacuate their base as possible? I side on the latter. Thank you. I thought I was the only one who picked up on this. He has no legitimate reason for deflecting suspicion away from Hoth unless he is a spy. It is utterly irrelevant to his position if a junior officer raises a bad idea to the boss against his own judgment, to say nothing of it being hazardous to question said boss when he's off on one of his headstrong impulses. Ozzel is a hero of the rebellion. The reason each It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode starts with a date and time is because they're all testifying against each other in court. Oh crap, it's definitely against Dennis. Miguel and Tulio may not be gods, but the armadillo that follows them around absolutely is. It's just helping them out because they saved it from being eaten. Bebo. I agree. When the volcano is going off, he is chasing a butterfly, and then when Tulio yells stop, Bebo stops chasing the butterfly as well. It even keeps cutting to Bebo during their conversation. Another one is his ability to walk on walls and change direction midair during the game. And him accidentally helping come up with a plan for the boat at the end. Amongst other things. Beavis and Butthead have fetal alcohol syndrome. That Loki was controlled by the Tesseract more than he let on. His eyes glowed multiple times and he shed a tear when Thor tried to talk sense into him. Fits with mythology Loki a bit better, where he's a troublemaker, and a bit twisted, but isn't evil. If anything, he suffers from affluenza, where he doesn't understand that other people face real consequences, whereas he doesn't because he's a god. It also allows them to hand-wave his turn to good. Wait. There's a theory the Tesseract controlled Loki like the Mind Stone could? That is the general theory of the Avengers. Loki is not evil. He is not a villain. He is the god of mischief. He just likes effing things up. He is not the type of person to invade a planet and maliciously murder everyone. Thanos was under control of him. It was the staff, the Mind Stone. In Disney's Ratatouille, the old lady in the beginning of the movie living in the house next to the river is the food critic, Anton Ego's mother. In the flashback scene where he eats the ratatouille, you can see similarities of the house from the beginning, her face and I think the bridge. That explains Remy being able to make the ratatouille that tasted exactly like his mother used to make. Imagine Anton Ego taking his mother to his new favorite restaurant and introducing her to the chef. Ego, mother, come here. We must pay compliments to the chef. Ego's mother, cock shotgun. The Jetsons and the Flintstones are living at the same time in a dystopian future where the haves live above the clouds and the have-nots are stuck on a wasted Earth. The signs include that Flintstones celebrate things like Christmas and other holidays, which doesn't make sense, and the Great Gazoo alien appears in both series. Gazoo is in the Jetsons? The town from Footloose is the same town from Tremors. The ban on dancing wasn't a puritanical attempt to control the youth. The town elders were aware of the graboid threat, and banned dancing out of the fear that it would cause rhythmic vibrations waking up the creatures sleeping below the town. Kevin Bacon's character in Footloose stayed in the town, growing up to be his character in Tremors, at which point he has to try and contain the danger he inadvertently released. There was so many problems with this, but, man, that's hilarious. As a massive Tremors fan, this made me laugh. Thanks for sharing. Red Alert 1's Allied victory results in the Red Alert 2/3 universe. Red Alert 1's Soviet victory leads to the Tiberium universe. Debunked by the writers themselves if I recall correctly, but that's how it'll always be for me. Isn't Kane one of Stalin's advisors in the Soviet campaign? The Soviet ending explicitly mentions the Brotherhood, and that they would tire of the USSR in the early 1990s, which is when the Tiberium series starts. There's a video on YouTube that goes into all the possible timelines based on the victor in each game, and I think it was mentioned that RA was originally meant to be a prequel to Tiberium. RA2 starts based on an Allied victory in RA1, as the Soviets are not in power and there's no GDI. I'm not sure if the developers ever denied it, but it's certainly how the timelines play out. Little late to the game, but the theory is that the Kyber crystal in Luke's green lightsaber is the same one from Qui-Gon Jinn's. After Kenobi defeats Darth Maul with his master's lightsaber, he would have kept it as a keepsake, despite rebuilding his own saber. It's likely he would have retrieved it and kept it with him after the Order 66 attack. After the Empire takes over, they destroy all artifacts and memory of the Jedi in their purge of changing the history, and most Kyber crystals go towards powering the Death Star. Because of this, any lightsaber crystal would have been very difficult for Luke to find after he loses the Skywalker saber. But we know he returns to Tatooine to complete his new lightsaber, likely returning to Ben Kenobi's home for components, where he would have found Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber and recycled its crystal. I vaguely remember reading, it might have been Shadows of the Empire, come to think of it, that Luke did go back to Ben's hut to study and get supplies. This makes a lot of sense. James Bond's primary purpose is to be a distraction to keep attention off the spies who actually spy. Villains and other spies know him, he rarely takes an alias, he makes his presence known early on and keeps messing up operations for the villains, but other spies have already infiltrated their ranks and work while Bond does as much visible damage as possible to keep the others safe. I like this one. When you think about it, he's a pretty bad spy. I read it on a fan theory post once, and it replaced my headcanon. It's simple, and logical. The name's Bond. James Bond. I'm a spy. For MI6. The secret British intelligence service. And I'm here to spy. On you. Shall we play cards? Glinda dropped Dorothy's house on the Wicked Witch of the East, not the tornado, and uses her to gain control of Oz. One of the first things Glinda tells Dorothy is that she killed the witch. They praise her so she'll accept it, and when the Witch of the West comes along, who killed her sister? Dorothy. Glinda then puts the ruby slippers on Dorothy's feet but does not tell her that she can use them to go home. Instead, she sends Dorothy to Oz in possession of objects that a witch would murder her for. Dorothy, being forced into a situation where her only salvation is Oz and her worst enemy is the Queen, inadvertently exposes the Wizard of Oz as a fraud and murders the Witch of the West. Now, who's left to rule Oz? Glinda effin' Witch of the North. She used Dorothy as an expendable pawn to gain control of Oz without having to leave her bubble. And when Dorothy is done upheaving the two biggest powers in Oz, Glinda sends her home and makes her think it was all a dream. She came down in a bubble, Doug. They were sisters. You're going to look at me and tell me I'm wrong? Hell, the Wicked Witch isn't even that evil. She just wants her sister's shoes to remember her by. No one mourns the wicked. I loved this book as a kid, and when I was around 24, my sister took me to see the play. I had the soundtrack, so I thought, oh man, I bet I'll cry during Defying Gravity. No One Mourns the Wicked is the first song, and as soon as they sang that line, there were just tears streaming down my face. I love that play. Event Horizon is a prequel to the Warhammer 40k universe. I was looking for this. What did we learn from this movie? Do not travel the warp/immaterium without a Geller field. Unless you're an orc and are looking for some mid-flight entertainment. Ah, the orcs. A perfect symbol of WH40k. Violent, insane, completely over the top, and almost funny because it's so effing ridiculous. Literally anything goes and it's great. And the subject of another fan theory. Orcs 1. The galaxy is practically what they would consider a utopia. In the grim darkness of the far future, they're having a blast. The orcs are the pinnacle of creation. For them, the great struggle is won. They have evolved a society which knows no stress or angst. Who are we to judge them? We Eldar who have failed, or the humans, on the road to ruin in their turn? And why? Because we sought answers to questions that an orc wouldn't even bother to ask. We see a culture that is strong and despise it as crude. Uthan the Perverse, a controversial Eldar philosopher. That the book Rory writes in the Gilmore Girls revival is the original show, that explains why the characters are so different from the show versus revival miniseries. She's looking back at the past with rose-colored glasses. It would also help explain any unrealistic aspects. For example, eating 1,000 pounds of fat and sugar every week, splurging on ridiculous things at the same time you're talking about having budget problems. Claiming to have watched every movie and read every book 100 times while being incredibly busy with life. This is Rory exaggerating for her book or misremembering when anecdotes took place. Same with How I Met Your Mother. If the show is someone talking about their memories, you get a convenient way to explain inconsistencies and other nonsense. I have one of my own. Buffy's mother Joyce's brain aneurysm occurred indirectly because of Dawn. Not through magic or anything directly supernatural. But she was Dawn's mother and therefore she would have the most artificially created memories, conception, pregnancy, life, thoughts, fears, etc. This caused so much real physical change to her brain overnight, that it created real medical problems and killed her. This is never hinted at all in the show. I always kind of thought this too. It makes perfect sense. The first headache Joyce gets is in Dawn's first full episode. The real world in the Matrix movies is just another layer of the Matrix, designed specifically to appeal to people unwilling to conform to the normal Matrix. Humans in this outer Matrix have confirmation of their belief that something was wrong, and get to indulge in the fantasy of being a heroic freedom fighter against the faceless evil machines, thus choosing to accept this false reality. The anomaly of the one is that he's capable of rejecting both realities, which is the reason why he had powers in the real world. Yeah, did Revolutions ever address this? I thought the cliffhanger ending of Reloaded was meant to reveal that the real world was just another Matrix. The official explanation for how Neo has powers in the real world is that he got them from going to the source, which is that room with the architect near the end of Reloaded. These powers are not supernatural. Neo, like all people born into the Matrix, has computer augments implanted in his body. With these augments, he hacks into the machines, causing them to explode. It was supposed to. The big reveal should have been that the Matrix exists is to keep human minds enslaved because the machines were actually using them like a big supercomputer cluster. It was never about electric energy storage. Studio execs killed the idea because they thought fans were too dumb to understand it. Pokédex entries are written by young trainers. When a professor sends a bunch of 10-year-olds out into the world to document Pokémon, of course the research can't be expected to be professional in the least. This is how we end up with the creepy legends of ghost Pokémon that might have been passed around as playground rumors, or impossible facts like Macargo being hotter than the actual sun. There's no reason why out of all the Pokémon professors, one of them couldn't have revised their dex information and correct the tidbit about Pidgeot breaking the speed of light or Gardevoir creating black holes or Blazikens jumping over 30-story buildings. It's likely they leave the kids to their own devices without bothering to fact-check, and kids, being kids, are going to exaggerate. Professor Oak just sent kids out on random errands so he could bang their moms. In the old games, completing the Pokédex gives you a diploma. So, basically Pokédex entries is the character's graduation thesis paper for the trainer diploma. King of the Hill, Dale knew about Nancy and John Redcorn, but feigned ignorance. Both to keep his home life stable, and because he knew Joseph would be raised as his son rather than Redcorn's. She cheated? Hank. I knew about Nancy and John Redcorn. I knew about them the day Joseph was born. But every day since he was born I've been taking my revenge. That boy, he loves me, Hank. He loves me. Love that John Redcorn will never get. He'll never hear his own boy tell him that. Joseph will go to his grave loving me and never so much as looking in John Redcorn's direction. His children, his grandchildren, they'll love me too, Hank. And they'll never even know John Redcorn existed. That's revenge, Hank. Just like when the former Soviet Union resurrected Lenin to cause the housing crisis in America in revenge. Anon number 90,319,350, 4chan, 2017. I read this in his voice. Amazing. Willy Wonka knew what he was doing. There was no seat for Augustus aboard that boat. He knew Augustus Gloop would fall in there. Oh yeah, this is absolutely true. It's why each kid had their own downfall specifically programmed into the tour. That's why he seemed bored by the end too. He was just weeding out the kids that weren't worthy. It's been a while since I watched it, but did they ever get to one to test Charlie? The fizzy lifting drinks thing was Uncle Joe being a bad influence, wasn't it? I don't think that was meant to be Charlie's downfall, otherwise how was there still room for him in the tour past that and whatnot? This also brings up the end game of the movie into question though. Was there a challenge meant for Charlie we didn't see, or was it actually just giving back the gobstopper? Slugworth was going to pay handsomely for it, so I assume if poor Charlie gave it back to Wonka that was him passing his test. The fizzy lifting drink just pissed off Wonka, I guess. That was never supposed to happen, I don't think. The fizzy lifting drinks thing was Uncle Joe being a bad influence, wasn't it? I don't think that was meant to be Charlie's downfall, otherwise how was there room for him past that and whatnot? Charlie and Grandpa Joe don't even drink the fizzy lifting drinks in the book, it was added in the film. Wonka probably knew that Charlie was the right person. Charlie lived right near the factory. Wonka was probably spying on him the whole time. Edit. Something else I just realized, Charlie is not the one who picks the candy bar that holds the winning ticket. The candy shop owner picks it for him after Charlie says he's buying it for his grandfather. A selfless act. This is also the nearest candy shop to the Wonka factory. And the owner grabs it off a shelf directly behind him where no customer could reach it. In the Broadway musical, it's implied that Wonka has been planning things for a long time and specifically intended for Charlie, who had a lot of ideas for new candy in the musical, to be the heir, since he owns and runs the candy store in the beginning. He's the shopkeeper who sings the opening song. Grandpa Joe also worked at the Wonka factory before his days of being a lazy butthole. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.